Keira was in a wonderful mood this Sunday morning. It didn't matter that she had to rush around like a squirrel in a wheel until lunchtime, preparing everything for the table. This was nothing new to her. It was her daily routine at work. Keira, who had graduated from culinary school a few years ago, worked as a cook in a café. Over time, she had become quite skilled in preparing food, sometimes even creating quite elaborate dishes when the café hosted special events, which happened fairly often. Their café was renowned in the city for its cuisine. It was cosy, and in the evenings, live music played. During the day, employees from nearby offices, shops and wholesale warehouses frequented the café for its affordable lunch specials. In the evenings, it was filled with business travellers and executives who discussed their work over a glass of good cognac. Keira worked alongside several other women under the supervision of the head chef, Gary, a tall, imposing man with a domineering personality. He didn't hold his subordinates in high regard. Despite having no complaints about Keira's work, he never missed an opportunity to grumble, reminding them that without him they would be worthless. However, there was no one to complain to about Gary's rudeness and lack of tact. The cafe director valued him, and rightly so, as he was an experienced chef. His demands for discipline were seen as necessary, and his occasional rudeness was overlooked. Today, however, Keira was her own boss in her kitchen. Much of the preparation had been done the day before, but there was still plenty to do. Although only a small group of guests was expected for the anniversary celebration, at least 6 people would be coming, and they needed to be well fed and entertained. Keira was busy preparing the stuffing for a duck she planned to roast in the oven when the doorbell rang. Wiping her hands, she hurried to answer it, thinking her husband had returned from his business trip. He had left 2 days ago from a neighbouring city to resolve an urgent supply issue for their furniture factory. They had argued about it, with Keira expressing her frustration that he always had urgent matters right before important family events. Donald had taken offence, grumbling that she didn't understand the pressures of his job and that no one else could handle the suppliers like he could. They hadn't spoken since, and Keira felt a bit guilty for being so harsh, even though Donald rarely helped her in the kitchen, always joking that he was an engineer, not a cook. However, it wasn't her husband at the door, but her mother-in-law, Willow. She lived separately from the young couple and was retired, though she occasionally tutored students in chemistry and biology to supplement her pension. She was a highly regarded teacher and knew how to prepare students for university entrance exams, earning a decent additional income. "Willow, you're so early. The celebration isn't for another 3 hours," Keira exclaimed after greeting her. "I know, dear. I came early to help you. You must be tired from all the cooking," Willow replied. Keira was pleased to have her mother-in-law's help. They got along very well, and Willow was always supportive and cheerful, unlike her son Donald, who often took offence at the slightest joke and rarely offered to help. While Donald usually excused himself after a brief chat with his mother, Keira and Willow could talk for hours, often losing track of time. Willow quickly changed and got to work, helping Keira with the preparations. She chopped vegetables, arranged snacks on plates, and prepared salads. Before they knew it, it was almost lunchtime, and the anniversary celebration was about to begin. Keira had about an hour left to prepare. "Oh, Willow, everything seems ready. I think I'll go and freshen up and change. The guests will be arriving soon, and I want to greet them looking my best." "Yes, of course, go ahead. I'll just arrange a few more things on the plates. Indeed, everything seems to be in place." Keira, dressed up, emerged from the bedroom and asked her mother-in-law, "So, what do you think of my new dress? Isn't it a bit short? I'm a little worried, to be honest. Donald and I had a quarrel, and I can't stop thinking about it. I love him deeply and hope we can make up today." Willow encouraged her daughter-in-law. "You look absolutely stunning, like a young girl. You don't look like someone who works in the food industry. You're so slim. Donald will be thrilled." White suits you so well. You look like a bride." Keira felt a bit better after her mother-in-law's words, but she couldn't forget the argument with her husband. Why had he started treating her this way? Why did he rarely embrace or compliment her like he used to when they were dating? Now everything seemed wrong to him. He found faults everywhere and was dissatisfied with everything. Their weekend strolls around the city had become a thing of the past. He always blamed his busy schedule and fatigue from work. He never asked how her day went or why she was late. It was all so sad. Despite everything, Keira loved Donald and eagerly awaited his arrival, hoping to reconcile and forget their grievances. The guests began to arrive, greeting each other. The women complimented the birthday girl on her appearance, while the men, impatiently eyeing the laden table, started discussing their affairs. Finally Donald arrived, clearly in a bad mood. He didn't even kiss his wife and headed straight to the bathroom. There was no hope of him bringing a bouquet of flowers. His mother disapprovingly watched him go, shaking her head. Keira's joy also faded. She hadn't expected Donald to still be angry. It wasn't worth it. Finally, everyone sat down, and the birthday wishes began. The mother-in-law presented Keira with a smartwatch. Keira gasped in surprise. She hadn't expected such a gift. She eagerly awaited her husband's turn, but when it came, he said dryly, even without standing up, "Happy birthday, Keira. I wish you the wisdom not to ruin your husband's mood before his next trip." His best friend Ben couldn't help but ask, "Is that all? What about a gift for your beloved wife?" The man grumbled in annoyance. "She still needs to earn a gift. Besides, my mum has already outdone herself. And isn't my arrival a gift enough?" Keira was shocked. How could he humiliate her in front of everyone? What had she done to deserve this? Even on her birthday, he couldn't say a kind word. Excusing herself to the guests, she rushed to the bathroom, feeling tears welling up. She needed to calm down and not let her husband ruin the entire celebration. When she returned to the living room, everyone was engrossed in their conversations. Her husband was loudly complaining to a colleague about his troubles with suppliers on his business trip. Keira sat down, not knowing what to do or how to act. She had no appetite and felt like crying again. Willow broke the tension by standing up and raising a toast. "Dear Keira, I wish you happiness and good health from the bottom of my heart. I love you, my dear. I am so glad you came into our family. You carry the weight of this family on your shoulders. And please don't be angry with Donald, dear. You know he sometimes speaks without thinking. Be happy, my dear. You deserve it." Everyone applauded, raised their glasses and drank to the birthday girl's health. Keira felt a weight lift off her chest. However, Donald was clearly displeased with his mother's words, though he tried to appear in agreement. The guests tactfully ignored the tension between the couple and continued enjoying the food and conversation. Willow genuinely wished her daughter-in-law a happy birthday and tried to lift her spirits, seeing how hurt she was by her husband's words. Today, she was once again reminded that her son had grown into a callous man with a bad temper, who didn't appreciate the love and kindness of those around him. She had raised him alone without a father. Willow believed that the absence of a male figure in their family had affected her son. Her job as a teacher, along with the constant preparation of lessons and reading educational literature at home, undoubtedly impacted her communication with him. Most of the time, he was left to his own devices. After a party, when the guests had left and her mother-in-law had gone home, Donald, slumped at the table and thoroughly inebriated, continued to drink alone, downing shot after shot. Suddenly, Keira noticed that the wedding ring he always wore was missing from his finger, and asked him about it, though she knew she wouldn't get a sensible answer in his state. Donald dramatically raised his left hand, looked at it and slurred, "You know, I wonder where it went. Maybe it fell off in the sink or in the toilet when I was washing my hands. Why are you picking on me? Don't you take your frustrations out on me. How long are you going to argue with me? I need to use the bathroom. Come on, show me the way. Inside, Keira was seething. She wanted to confront Donald, but she knew his temper. She understood that if she started an argument now, there was no telling how it might end. So she remained silent and helped him to the bathroom to prevent him from hurting himself. Then she began gathering his clothes for the laundry. Her heart was heavy. Her birthday had been ruined. She had hoped for something nice from her husband, but he had gotten drunk instead. Suddenly, something clattered to the floor. It was Donald's wedding ring, fallen from his jacket pocket. His shirt reeked of women's perfume, and there were lipstick stains on the collar. Everything became clear. Keira felt disgusted. She couldn't bear to touch his clothes. She never wore lipstick herself, except a curing one. How revolting, she thought, tossing the shirt into the laundry basket. So, this was what his business trips were about. She always believed his words, sympathized with him for being so busy at work. Poor thing, always tired. Just then his phone lit up with a new message, and Keira read it without hesitation. Darling, our date was wonderful. You're my insatiable tiger. I miss you already. I'm trying on your gift. Your ruby earrings are gorgeous. Kisses. Keira sat down, and tears of anger overwhelmed her. He had lied, taking advantage of her trust. He had humiliated and hurt her. And on top of that, his mistress got ruby earrings. At this moment, Donald stumbled out of the bathroom and collapsed onto the bed, snoring loudly. Keira cried in the bathroom for a long time. She went to bed after midnight, trying to keep her distance from her treacherous husband. But even in his sleep, he pulled her close, mumbling, "Quinn, my kitten, come to me." This was the final straw for Keira. Even in his dreams he thought of another woman, not her. She was nothing to him, just a servant, a mere convenience. Why had this happened? She had been happy, making plans for the future with the man she loved, only to be left alone with pain and betrayal. Wrapped in a blanket, Keira sat on the couch, dozing fitfully until morning. The next day was difficult for both of them. Keira, her eyes swollen from crying, watched as Donald, cursing under his breath, rummaged through the drawers. "Why are you looking at me?" he grumbled. "Better give me a pill, my head is killing me." Keira exploded. "Let Quinn take care of you. And you didn't lose your wedding ring, you took it off, so your mistress wouldn't see it. It's in your jacket pocket. You're despicable, Donald, the lowest of the low." Her husband was furious. "How dare you go through my pockets? What right do you have?" He was livid with rage. He didn't apologize for his infidelity or promise to change. He didn't assure her it was a one-time mistake. Instead, he said, "Yes, I have a woman I dream about. I'm a man. I have the right to relax. Do you know how hard I work? What can I even talk to you about? All you do is cook your soups and stews. Be grateful I haven't left you." He paused, then added, "Enough with the hysterics. Leave me alone and make some coffee." Keira shook her head, hardly believing what she was hearing. For the first time in her life, she had smashed a pile of freshly washed dishes to the floor in anger. "Enough!" she cried out. "I won't tolerate this treatment any more. I'm leaving and we're getting a divorce. Go ahead and sleep with your Quinn all you want." Donald waved his hand dismissively, drank some water, stepped over the broken dishes and went back to sleep. He figured she would calm down eventually. After all, she had nowhere else to go. And he was right. Keira had no family left besides her mother-in-law. Life had dealt her cruel blows from an early age. Keira became an orphan at the age of 6 when her parents died in a car accident on an icy road. Their car, with summer's tyres, spun out of control and collided head-on with a truck. Her parents did not survive. Little Keira was left in the care of her grandmother. At first, the girl grieved deeply. She remembered her parents well and often looked at their photos, crying. She missed their love and affection. Although her grandmother was loving and caring, trying her best to provide for Keira, it wasn't the same. Keira's mother had been very affectionate, and her father doted on her. After their death, they lived on her grandmother's small pension and Keira's survivor benefits. The sudden illness and death of her grandmother was another significant shock. Although her aunt took her in, life was never the same. Her aunt was strict and serious, not someone Keira could confide in. When Keira enrolled in culinary school, she was relieved to move into the dormitory. She quickly made friends with her roommates, but the loneliness and longing for her family never truly left her. One Sunday, while walking in the park, Keira caught the eye of a handsome young man. He smiled at her and later approached her, offering her ice cream. "You're the most beautiful girl in the city," he said flirtatiously. He introduced himself as Donald and asked for her name. They arranged a date that very day. Donald was polite and attentive, offering his jacket when she felt cold. They fell in love and their relationship blossomed, eventually leading to marriage. Keira got along well with her mother-in-law, who was kind and understanding, especially knowing that Keira was an orphan. The young woman was happy, or so she thought, until her husband revealed his cruel and cynical nature. The realization that her beloved husband was so heartless devastated her. She couldn't stop crying, feeling a lump in her throat. After the morning argument with her husband, Keira went to work feeling exhausted, as if she hadn't rested at all. She decided to rent an apartment and not to return to her husband for a while. At work, the day started poorly. The head chef Gary was in a foul mood, shouting orders at his staff. "Why are you all moving like sleepy flies?" he barked. "People will be here for lunch soon, and you haven't even peeled the potatoes yet. Do I have to do everything myself? And you, Keira, why are you so sluggish? Didn't get enough sleep? Come on, girls, move faster." His constant nagging was nauseating, especially since everyone was busy with their tasks, but Keira had no idea what had caused the chef's latest outburst. The fact of the matter was that Gary had long ago promised a kitchen position to his relative. However, fulfilling that promise had proven difficult, as hiring extra staff was not permitted. Thus, he needed to ensure that one of the current cooks was let go, and to Keira's unluckiness, he chose her as his target, and not by chance. He suspected that she was the director's favourite, so to speak, and could potentially replace him if needed. Throughout the day, the chef gave the girls no respite. This ended tragically for Keira. Preoccupied with her thoughts, though it didn't affect her cooking, she awkwardly tilted a large pot of broth, spilling it onto her hand. "Ouch!" Keira cried. "That hurt so much." The other girls rushed to her aid, advising her to run her hand under cold water. But it did little to help. Her skin instantly reddened and a large blister formed. The pain was so intense that she could barely hold back tears. Gary wanted to reprimand her sternly, asking where her mind was, but seeing the injury, he immediately sent her to the hospital. At the reception, she encountered a young, handsome doctor named Dr. Martin. He had arrived a couple of days prior, transferred from another city hospital as part of an experience exchange program. Moaning and barely holding back tears, Keira showed the surgeon her burned hand. After examining her, the doctor prescribed a treatment plan. To her fears that an ugly scar would remain, he reassured her. "Don't worry, nothing will remain. Follow my instructions and it will heal properly. You're young, everything will be fine." He smiled encouragingly and gently touched her shoulder. This friendly, comforting gesture moved Keira so deeply that she unexpectedly burst into tears in the office, sobbing and wiping her tears with her good hand. "Oh, don't be so upset," the doctor said. "I told you, your hand will be fine. It just needs time to heal. So go home and take care of yourself." "Doctor, I have nowhere to go," Keira sobbed even harder. "My husband kicked me out." "How could he kick out someone as lovely as you?" Dr. Martin tried to console her. Overwhelmed by emotions, Keira poured out her heart to him, recounting the humiliation she endured from Donald on her birthday and the discovery she made in his belongings. She explained how she had left home in a fit of emotion. "You know what?" the doctor said after a moment of thought. "If your situation is so dire, I might have a solution. I had an elderly patient whom I successfully operated on, essentially saving his life. He was a lonely man living alone in a private house, but age caught up with him and he fell ill, knowing his end was near. Before he passed, he bequeathed his house to me, despite my protests. He insisted, saying that no one else had shown such care for his health in his final years. So, if you'd like, I can give you the keys. No one lives there now, and it has all the amenities and some furniture left behind. It could be a place for you to stay while you get back on your feet." Keira was taken aback. "Thank you so much, but we barely know each other. Aren't you afraid to let a stranger stay in your house?" The doctor smiled, captivated by this tearful, beautiful petite woman. "No, my dear, I'm not afraid. I see countless patients every day, so I have a good sense of people. I can tell you're a decent woman who's just going through a tough time. Life happens, so take the keys and don't worry. Everything will work out." She was given a medical leave note and instructed to return in a few days for a follow-up. Keira found the house quickly. It was indeed close to the hospital. The old brick house stood proudly, despite its age. Entering the small courtyard, she realized no one had been there for a long time. The grass was overgrown, and wind-blown litter had scattered about. Inside, a thick layer of dust covered the floors and furniture, and the air was stale with the scent of an empty house. However, the lights worked, water flowed from the taps, and the fairly new refrigerator hummed to life when plugged in. "It seems livable," Keira thought with a glimmer of hope. She called a taxi and went to retrieve her belongings. Thankfully, her husband was not home, but the stale smell of alcohol still lingered in the air. She packed the essentials into 2 bags, gathered her documents and left. In the evening, at her new dwelling, she managed to change linen, clean the dust, make coffee, and prepare a sandwich before the exhaustion from the argument with her husband and the pain from her burn overwhelmed her, and she fell into a deep sleep. Donald, meanwhile, felt no remorse for his actions. He was having an affair with a woman who sought sponsors for a luxurious lifestyle. Their relationship was convenient for him, with no commitments, unlike his marriage. He was tired of the responsibilities and questions that came with married life, being interrogated about his whereabouts, facing disapproval for drinking with friends, and contributing to the family budget. He looked forward to the freedom that divorce would bring, especially since the apartment was his to begin with, and there would be no property disputes with Keira. Later that evening, Keira's mother-in-law called her to check on the situation. The call woke Keira from her sleep, and she struggled to orient herself. When she heard her mother-in-law's voice, she couldn't help but feel emotional. She explained that Donald had effectively kicked her out, and she had decided to leave for good. They were getting a divorce, and on top of everything, she had burned her hand at work. Willow was shocked and offered her home to Keira, but Keira didn't want to impose, especially since she had accepted a doctor's offer to stay in a small house. Her mother-in-law promised to visit the next day to help with the cleaning. Together, they transformed the house into a cosy living space, hanging new curtains and scrubbing the floors. The small yard outside was charming, perfect for enjoying fresh air and listening to birdsong in the summer. Keira went for physiotherapy treatments to accelerate the healing process of her burn wound. During another treatment session, she saw Dr. Martin, and he invited Keira to his office. "Thank you, Dr. Martin. You are very attentive. I even feel a bit embarrassed. You spend so much effort and time on me, and you have enough worries of your own. And besides, I will leave your house as soon as I feel better." He smiled gently and said, "Keira, don't worry about the house. I don't need it yet. You can stay. I can even help you with the repairs if you invite me over." Keira, feeling the doctor's attention, blushed deeply. She also felt an attraction to this wonderful man. "Dr. Martin, I would be happy to help you too once I recover. I see how much energy you put into your work, how you empathize with your patients. I am lucky to have met you. I am simply happy and obliged to help you. And of course, feel free to visit any time. I'm not working now, and I am always ready to welcome you." "Then I'll come by this evening, but not alone, with my son. I have no one to leave him with." "Of course, I would be happy to have him. I love children." When his car stopped at the gate of her house, Keira's heart skipped a beat. She was inexplicably nervous. At the door stood Jonathan, with a boy of about 6, a chubby, cheerful little fellow. While the adults hesitated, the little one confidently extended his hand to the hostess and greeted her. "Hi, I'm Kevin. And are you Keira? I already know, Dad told me. Do you have any toys here? Any pets?" A flurry of questions broke the ice. Keira laughed, seating her guests. Jonathan complimented her. "Wow, your place looks so cozy now, knowing how it was before. You are a magician. Everything is so clean and tidy." "Please have a seat. We'll have dinner soon. I want to treat you with a homemade meal. And the tea is simply divine, with various herbs and a wonderful aroma. I also made a quick biscuit with raisins. I hope you will enjoy it. Please, help yourselves." "Thank you, I won't refuse. The day has been hellish. The clinic was packed with patients, including 3 children with fractures. So there hadn't even been time for a proper cup of tea." After the dinner, Kevin noticed something fascinating through the window. He fidgeted and asked, "Dad, can I go play outside?" His father, of course, agreed, and the adults continued their conversation. "Your work is so important, Dr. Martin. You are truly saintly. What could be more noble than healing people? You deserve honour and admiration." After a brief pause and a flush of embarrassment, she asked, "Dr. Martin, please excuse my curiosity, but where is Kevin's mother? Are you divorced?" Jonathan replied, "Well, the story isn't very nice. I was married, now I'm divorced. I have a 6-year-old son. We were together for 7 years, through good times and bad. Just as life seemed to stabilize, it all fell apart. My wife met someone and left 2 years ago. She said she was bored at home alone while I worked long hours, even on weekends and holidays. She left our son with me and never looked back, claiming she needed to sort out her personal life. She promised to take him later, but she never did. Kevin missed her terribly at first, but he's adjusted now. I'm glad she left him with me. My son is the meaning of my life, the reason I keep going." Keira listened intently, sighing heavily. She thought, "He's such a good man, both as a doctor and a person." She found herself drawn to him. In essence, they were 2 lonely souls, betrayed and discarded. "What are your plans for the future, Keira?" Jonathan asked. "Will you reconcile with your husband?" "I'm getting a divorce, Dr. Martin," Keira replied. "There's no other way. I can't forgive his infidelity and bad attitude." She sighed deeply. Jonathan suggested, "Well, everything will be all right. Trust me. I know what I say. Thank you for a wonderful dinner. I don't want to leave, but I must. Early start tomorrow, and I need to get Kevin to school." "Dr. Martin, I can help with Kevin," Keira offered. "Whenever you need, just call. I can stay with him at your place or take him to mine. I love children, and I think we'll get along just fine." "That would be wonderful, Keira. Thank you," Jonathan replied. "I often work night shifts, and though I ask a neighbour to watch him, I still worry." As they parted, Jonathan thanked Keira for the lovely evening and her culinary skills again. He wished her a speedy recovery and kissed her gently on the cheek. Keira barely slept that night, tossing and turning, thinking of Jonathan and his compliments. She could still feel his touch and only fell asleep at dawn. In the morning, he called. "Good morning, Keira. How did you sleep? I thought about you all night. About us. Kevin and I are thrilled with you. So we're expecting you at our place this evening. It's our turn to host. Deal?" Keira was delighted for the invitation. She had been hoping to see Jonathan and Kevin again. She decided to bake some pastries with raspberry jam. If her hand was fully healed, she would have prepared more, but for now this would have to do. She realised she had nothing suitable to wear, wanting to look her best. She chose her favourite light blue blouse and a matching skirt, feeling comfortable and elegant. Despite her efforts to calm down, her heart raced all day at the thought of Jonathan. The evening passed warmly and cosily, like a family gathering. Strangely, in Jonathan's house, Keira felt completely at ease. Her heart was light and content, as if she had always belonged there. Keira quickly found common ground with the child. He showed her the textbooks and notebooks they had bought for school. Then they all played dominoes together, solved riddles, played various games and watched cartoons. The child enjoyed the evening immensely, being the centre of attention. When Kevin fell asleep, Keira prepared to leave. "I must go, it's getting late. Thank you for the wonderful evening. I feel so refreshed. Your son is remarkable, intelligent, bright and sociable. We are now great friends. I even forgot about all my problems." Jonathan approached Keira and suddenly pulled her close, kissing her so passionately that her head spun. He whispered to her, "Keira, please don't go. I know this is crazy, but I can't bear to let you go even for a second. I'm going mad over you. You are so tender, so sensual. Please don't push me away." Keira struggled with herself, finding it so difficult to pull away from Jonathan. Yet she gently pushed him back and almost ran home, saying, "Forgive me. I can't do this. It's not right. I am still married." At home, she cried into her pillow half the night, berating herself. "What a fool I am! What if Jonathan is offended and we never see each other again? But I have fallen in love too, so unexpectedly and so deeply. Tomorrow I will file for divorce." 3 weeks later, when her hand had healed, Keira returned to her work. There, Gary greeted her with shocking news. "I'm sorry, Keira, but your position has been filled. We've already hired another cook. You've been sloppy lately, clumsy and careless, and you know we can't tolerate that here. So, go to the HR department and get your final paycheck." Keira felt deeply hurt, tears welling up in her eyes. "How can you do this? Why? I've worked here for years without a single complaint. And getting burned was an accident. It could happen to anyone. I will complain about this." But Gary silenced her. "Don't you dare complain. If you do, I'll give you such a bad reference that no one will hire you, not even as a dishwasher." Although it was all illegal, Keira did not argue. She knew the head chef would eventually get her fired. Nevertheless, she walked home in utter confusion. She needed to live, but without money, she wouldn't last long. Her mood plummeted. Sitting in the kitchen, she aimlessly stared at her surroundings. Only now did Keira notice that one of the tiles near the floor was loose. She must have dislodged it while mopping, she thought. She touched it, intending to put it back in place, but it fell out completely, revealing a hole behind it. What could be in there? She wondered with sudden interest. Her gloomy mood lifted instantly. She had only read about such things in books and never imagined it could happen in real life. Putting on a glove, Keira carefully reached into the hole in the stove. She felt a bundle and pulled it out. It was small but quite heavy. With bated breath, she emptied the contents of the dusty cloth bag onto the table. It was gold! Rings, chains, massive signet rings, and even a few large nuggets. Entranced, she gazed at the treasure before her. Then, catching her breath, she decided to call Dr. Martin. After all, it was his house. She didn't know how to tell him about the find over the phone, so she sent a short text message. "Jonathan, come as soon as you can." And within an hour, Jonathan rushed into the house. "Keira, what happened? I thought about so many bad things on the way here. Are you all right?" Keira showed him her discovery, explaining, "I'm sorry, it wasn't intentional. A tile came loose and I tried to put it back, and found that." Jonathan examined the find in amazement. "Wow, what a discovery!" he exclaimed. "I had no idea there were such treasures in this house." "You're incredible, Keira, and you bring luck. Families have lived and died here, but only you just stumble upon a hidden treasure. It's a sign, Keira. Let's consider this find ours to share." Overwhelmed with emotion, Jonathan embraced Keira and kissed her. She blushed, but did not pull away. She had almost forgotten the pleasure of being held in strong masculine arms. "What are you planning to do with this treasure?" Jonathan asked. Keira shared that she had been fired from the café and added, "I was so upset. I thought I needed to find a new job quickly, but now it seems I don't have to rush. I can take my time to find a good position." "Oh, besides, I've had an idea for you. There's a vacant space in the hospital where I work. It used to be a kitchen for patients, but it was outsourced. There are many visitors to the hospital, but no shops or cafes nearby. If you rent that space, you could open a cafe. Patients and their families would love it. What do you think, Keira? Could you handle it? I'll help with the renovations and paperwork. It's a big project, but I think you can do it." Keira considered the idea. "I can definitely handle the kitchen side of things. I know exactly what's required for baking and cooking." "That sounds perfect," Jonathan said. "Let's do it. I think it will be profitable." He looked intently at Keira and asked, "Tell me honestly, do you still love your husband? I know I rushed things, but my feelings for you haven't changed. I love you, Keira. And Kevin keeps asking about you. I need to know how you feel about me. Am I just a friend to you, or—" "The divorce is in 2 days," Keira replied softly, "and I'll be free. Is that what you wanted to hear? Or am I mistaken?" "Yes, Keira, that's exactly it," Jonathan said. "I can't propose to a married woman, but to a free, beautiful and desirable one, I can and will. Do I have a chance?" Instead of answering, Keira embraced Jonathan and kissed him. "You're in my dreams every night," she whispered. "I've never met a man as genuine as you. I love you too. I feared my feelings before, but now I'm sure. Yes, I'll marry you. I'll give Kevin all my love and care, and I'll be a devoted wife to you." Jonathan could no longer contain his emotions. They were swept away by passion and never parted again. Jonathan negotiated the lease for the hospital space. They hired a construction crew, and the work was completed quickly. Keira, in a move of defiance against Gary, poached the most diligent employees from the café. Fresh pastries, good coffee and tea, and sandwiches were a hit with patients and their families. Keira and Jonathan got married in a small ceremony with close family and friends. They decided to move into Jonathan's house, but first needed to renovate it to modern standards. The family's most significant changing was a black terrier puppy. The little dog became a companion for the whole family, especially loving to play with Kevin. The clever and intelligent puppy was adept at sensing the family's moods and became Kevin's most devoted friend. Meanwhile, Keira delightedly began decorating the yard with flowers. Near the house, she planted climbing roses and clematis, and along the path, bright purple fragrant thyme and creeping low sage. They also set up a gazebo, providing a place to relax and enjoy the vibrant flower beds, or settle down with a book or a cup of tea. Overall, it was a paradise, a cosy haven away from the bustle and noise of the big city. The family felt happy in their wonderful home. Keira understood the responsibilities Jonathan bore at work and never bothered him unnecessarily. Instead, she thanked him for everything, appreciating his steadfast support. Jonathan, in turn, cherished every moment spent with her and often said, holding her tightly, "My family is my everything." Soon, Keira discovered she was expecting a child with her beloved husband. 5 years passed and much had changed. After the divorce, Donald had a falling out with his mother, and upon learning that she was on Keira's side and continued to see her, he became deeply offended and stopped communicating with her. His mistress Quinn, realizing the position of wife was now vacant, began pursuing Donald to marry her. However, he desired only casual, uncomplicated relationships. They began to argue frequently and eventually parted ways. Donald, overenjoyed, indulged in reckless behaviour, squandering money in bars and changing women as often as he changed his clothes. However, this lifestyle soon lost its appeal. At night, in his drunken stupor, each woman seemed like a goddess, but the sobering morning revealed yet another empty shell with whom he had nothing in common. He grew tired of these fleeting encounters and found himself short on money. Besides, the thought that Keira was thriving gnawed at him, filling him with bitter envy and emptiness. It was Kevin's birthday, and the family celebrated at home with friends and relatives. They grilled kebabs in the gazebo, and his little sister, like a spinning top, danced around the birthday boy, who entertained her with tickles. Suddenly the gate opened, and in walked a well-groomed, stylishly dressed woman, rolling a suitcase behind her and clicking her heels. Everyone turned to look, and a hush fell over the table. Jonathan saw his ex-wife and turned pale. He was not pleased to see her. Rising from the table, he approached her and demanded, "What are you doing here? Why have you come?" The woman, unfazed, smiled sweetly and chattered, "Hello, Jonathan. I've just returned home. I remembered it's Kevin's birthday, so I bought him a present." She pulled an expensive robot from a bag and called out to her son, "Kevin, darling, Mummy's back. I missed you so much. Here's your present." She was taken aback when a tall teenager rose from the table. She remembered her son as a small child. Kevin walked over to his biological mother, looked at her for a long time, and then calmly replied, "Why did you come?" "Mother, you're too late. I've grown up and don't play with robots anymore. Keira raised and loves me. She was a real mum to me and Dad is happy with her. I love my little sister too. You are a stranger to me now. It's best if you leave." Rowan stood there stunned and humiliated, not knowing what to do. She had expected her son to run into her arms, overjoyed to see her. Jonathan added, "Please, go away. You can see that Kevin doesn't want to see you, and you were stripped of your parental rights long ago. You're no mother, just a cuckoo who abandoned her husband and child for some worthless fling. Forget the way back here, or you'll face trouble. I don't care where or with whom you live. Our paths have long since diverged." He pushed Rowan out and closed the gate. The celebration continued, and Keira sighed, asking her husband, "Don't you feel sorry for her? Maybe she really has come to her senses. After all, she is his mother." Jonathan replied firmly, "No, I don't. If Kevin himself wanted to see her, I might have allowed it. But the boy understood everything long ago. You are his mother, the one who loves and cares for him. Rowan can have her life as she pleases. She made her choices back then. You are my beloved wife, the mother of my daughter. I need no one else. And Kevin doesn't need her either. You heard his words." The children ran to Keira, hugging her and saying, "Mummy, we love you so much." Keira was overwhelmed with happiness, for all her dreams had come true. She was doing what she loved, had a strong family and a loving husband. Looking at her happy family, Keira thought, happiness is the only thing you can give to another without taking anything away from yourself.